All right. Ready to dive deep.
Yeah.
Today, we're tackling the divine principle.
Oh, yeah. This is the big one.
So we're going deep into this religious text.
It's a fascinating one.
It really is. And I know you've studied this quite a bit.
I've been fascinated by it for years, yeah.
Yeah, I think a lot of our listeners are probably fascinated by this as well. We're working with the 1996 English translation of the Exposition of the Divine Principle.
Which is itself an interpretation of Reverend Sun Myung Moon's teachings.
Right. Which can be a little dense, I'll be honest, but we're going to break it down.
We'll try to make it approachable.
Yeah. So the divine principle, it aims to explain, like, all the big stuff.
Yeah.
The creation of the universe.
Oh, yeah. Big questions.
The root of sin, the concept of predestination, the role of the Messiah. It's all in there.
So where do we even begin?
I mean, I think the natural starting point is with the creation, right?
Yeah, I think so too. How does the divine principle understand how the universe came to be?
Okay, so creation of the universe. The divine principle talks about God having these dual characteristics,
right?
Yang and yin.
Yeah.
And these are interacting.
They're fundamental forces
to create everything. So is it kind of like light and darkness?
Yeah, I think that's a really good analogy.
Where you need both.
You got to have both.
In order for the world to exist.
Absolutely. And the divine principle describes these, as these fundamental forces within God that interact to create all things. And this is where it gets really interesting.
Okay.
Is that everything, and this includes us,
okay,
exists as an object partner to God, striving to reflect his nature.
Wait, so we're all like mini gods in a way, trying to mirror those same qualities?
In a sense, yeah.
Really?
I mean, it's more nuanced than that, but yeah. The text really emphasizes that humans are at the center of creation, that we're made in God's image and given dominion over everything else.
Okay.
But it doesn't stop there.
All right.
It goes further.
Okay.
There's this concept of a growing period where everything matures under God's guidance.
Gotcha.
Except humans, we have this free will, and we were actually responsible for our own spiritual growth.
So it's not just about being made in God's image,
right?
But about becoming more like God through our choices.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
And that adds a whole other layer of responsibility, doesn't it?
It does, yeah.
So the divine principle uses the symbol of the tree of life to represent this perfected state that we're all striving for.
Okay.
Right? It's about fulfilling our potential.
Yeah.
And reflecting God's nature in its fullness.
But of course, you can't really talk about the tree of life,
right,
without mentioning, the other tree.
Of course, the forbidden fruit.
Yeah, the one with the forbidden fruit, the tree of the knowledge of good and evil.
Yeah.
We all know the story of Adam and Eve.
Right.
I'm guessing the divine principle doesn't see this as like
it's not just about breaking the rules.
Yeah, it's not as simple as,
It's more nuanced.
Yeah, disobeying a rule.
Right, the fruit is symbolic. The divine principle explains the fall as a consequence of Adam and Eve uniting with Lucifer.
Yeah.
An angel.
In this illicit sexual act.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah.
This act...
which was driven by Lucifer's envy of God's love for humans.
Yeah.
Introduced sin into the world.
Hold on. So you're saying that the root of sin is jealousy.
Oh, yeah.
And this one act...
Divine principle, yeah.
Had such massive consequences for all of humanity.
Yes, the divine principle really highlights that the fall wasn't just about disobedience, but a specific kind of disobedience.
Fueled by envy.
Right.
And with lasting ramifications for all of us.
Wow, that's a heavy thought. So what exactly were the consequences?
Well, I mean,
it sounds like we're talking about more than just getting kicked out of a garden.
Oh, yeah, much, much more. The consequences were huge. Separation from God.
Right.
Ignorance of his will. Becoming susceptible to Satan's influence.
Right.
It's almost like humanity inherited Lucifer's fallen nature.
Okay.
Becoming his children rather than God's.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's intense.
It's pretty heavy stuff.
And this isn't just a one-time event, is it?
Nope, not at all.
I mean, the text says that sin continues to be passed down through generations.
Yeah, through lineage, through acts of sexual immorality.
Right, yeah.
It's a key point that we're constantly battling this inherited fallen nature. It's like an inner struggle between our original mind, the one that seeks good, and the evil mind, which desires evil.
Gotcha.
Right. And
it does.
But it also leads to another important concept. Complete salvation.
Okay.
According to the divine principle, requires both spiritual and physical restoration.
Okay. But if Jesus died on the cross, how could he possibly achieve physical restoration?
That's the point.
Okay.
The divine principle suggests that Jesus' crucifixion prevented him from fulfilling that aspect of the restoration. That's why the second coming of Christ is so essential.
Wow. So there's this whole other chapter of the story yet to come.
Absolutely.
So does the divine principle talk about what the second coming will look like?
It does.
Wow.
It mentions prophecies and signs pointing towards this event, like the unification of religions, an outpouring of the Holy Spirit, and a growing desire for freedom.
So these are all signs that we're...
Yeah, these are all signs that we're moving toward the last days.
The last day.
Yeah, the time leading up to the second coming.
Wait, are you suggesting that we might be living in the last days?
According to the divine principle, yes.
Now.
Yeah.
Oh.
This brings us to another fascinating concept, returning resurrection.
Okay, I gotta admit, this is where it gets a little spooky for me. What exactly does returning resurrection mean?
So imagine historical figures, religious leaders, anyone who played a role in God's plan coming back to earth to help with this restoration process. It's like they're returning to support the second coming and the establishment of the kingdom of heaven.
So it's not just about the future.
Right.
It's about the past influencing the present to shape our ultimate destiny.
I mean, it's a mind-bending concept.
It is.
The divine principle highlights how history itself reflects this divine plan for restoration.
Okay.
It's a cycle of growth, decline, and convergence. And we can see it, in culture, in religion, even in science.
So all these seemingly separate parts of human experience
totally
are actually connected and working towards this bigger goal.
That's the idea.
Okay. That's quite a perspective shift.
It's a big idea for sure.
So to fully grasp this, the divine principle proposes that we need a new truth, something that goes beyond the limitations of the Bible to unify religions, to reconcile religion and science, and to provide a new framework for understanding God's plan.
Right.
A new truth. That's a bold claim.
It is.
What would that even look like?
That's a question that we'll explore further as we go deeper into the divine principle.
Okay.
But it's clear that this new truth aims to address the complexities of our modern world.
Right.
And guide us towards a more unified and fulfilling future.
Man, this is already making me rethink everything I thought I knew about the divine principle.
It's a lot to process.
So we've got this, cosmic creation story, the fall, the role of Jesus, the second coming, and now a new truth emerging in the last days.
It's a lot.
What comes next in this incredible narrative?
Well, now I think we need to tackle the million-dollar question.
Right.
If God has this grand plan for humanity, what about our free will?
Yeah.
Where do we fit in?
That's what I'm wondering.
Yeah.
How
do you reconcile
predestination,
free will?
Yeah.
Does the divine principle offer any answers?
It does, and it involves a concept called indemnity.
Indemnity. All right, I am intrigued.
Yeah, it's a good one.
Let's unpack that.
Yeah. This concept of indemnity, it's really at the heart of how the divine principle reconciles predestination and free will.
Okay, indemnity. What does that even mean?
It sounds kind of legal, right?
It does, yeah.
Well, it's about taking responsibility for past mistakes.
And making amends to realign ourselves with God's ideal.
Okay. So like if you messed up and you want to make things right.
Yeah, kind of like indemnity on a personal level.
Gotcha.
Recognizing the consequences of our actions, and working towards a better outcome.
So it's not like begging for forgiveness.
No.
It's more about owning up to our choices.
Right.
And making things right.
Exactly.
Okay, I like that.
And the divine principle suggests that this applies not just to our individual lives, but to humanity as a whole.
Right. So
we need to make amends for the mistakes of the past.
Whoa, hold on.
For the fall.
But how do we make up
all the ways we've strayed from God's original vision?
For something as big as the fall.
It's a tall order.
It is.
It seems daunting, but the divine principle offers a hopeful perspective.
Okay.
It suggests that God predestined the purpose of creation and restoration.
Okay.
But gives humans the free will to fulfill their responsibility.
It's a partnership.
Yeah. It's like this delicate balance between God's plan and our active participation.
So it's not like we're puppets.
No.
Just blindly following a script.
Not at all.
Our choices matter.
Our choices matter deeply.
Okay. So how does indemnity work? What does it look like to actively participate in this restoration?
It's about consciously choosing good,
Right, okay.
Resisting those inherited inclinations towards evil.
Yeah.
And ultimately striving to become more like God.
So every act of kindness, every effort towards unity, every step we take towards embodying God's love.
All of it.
These are acts of indemnity.
Absolutely.
Really. So even small actions can contribute to this larger goal of restoration.
Absolutely. The divine principle emphasizes that every act of goodness, no matter how small, has this ripple effect.
It all matters.
It shifts the balance towards good and brings us closer to God's ideal.
I see how this all ties together now. But the divine principle, it also talks about specific time periods and numbers, 40 days, 400 years, all these recurring patterns.
Those are symbolic periods.
What's the significance of that?
Of separation from Satan and the restoration of God's sovereignty. Think about, for example, the 40-day flood in Noah's story.
Oh, right.
That symbolizes a time of judgment and purification, a chance for humanity to start fresh.
Right, yeah.
These patterns appear throughout history, highlighting these key moments in God's providence.
So it's not just random.
No.
It's deliberate.
It's these cycles of growth, testing, and renewal, pushing humanity towards this ultimate goal of restoration.
Wow. But what about the stories themselves? Like the dove and the raven in Noah's story?
Yeah, those are great.
Or the significance of the tabernacle. They seem really important, symbolically.
You're right. The divine principle encourages us to look beyond the surface.
Yeah. And delve into those symbolic layers.
Okay.
The dove, for example, represents a striving for purity and connection with God.
Right.
While the raven symbolizes those temptations that can lead us astray.
Right, like that inner struggle we all have.
Yeah.
Between doing the right thing and giving in to those impulses.
Totally.
Yeah.
We all have our inner doves and ravens battling it out.
I like that. We do.
And the divine principle provides a framework for understanding these inner struggles and making choices that align with our desire for goodness and connection with God.
Okay, what about the tabernacle?
The tabernacle symbolizes God's presence among his people.
Okay.
It foreshadows the ultimate unification with God that we're striving for through this whole process of restoration.
So these stories, they're more than just historical accounts. They're
they're multi-layered narratives with deep spiritual meaning.
Yeah.
That can guide us.
That's a great way to put it.
Yeah.
The divine principle really encourages us to explore these deeper meanings, to see the connections between these historical events and the overarching story of restoration.
Yeah.
And to find relevance for our own lives.
Okay, this is giving me a whole new appreciation for those Bible stories.
Yeah.
We talked about Jesus' role as the Messiah.
Right.
But the divine principle also mentions him returning in the flesh. Does that mean he's going to be physically reborn?
That's what the divine principle suggests.
Okay.
It really emphasizes that the second coming won't be like a spiritual apparition or a metaphorical return, but a physical embodiment.
Wow.
Similar to his first coming.
Okay, so all those paintings of Jesus floating down on the cloud.
The cloud imagery is symbolic, representing the faithful believers who will gather around the returning Christ.
Gotcha. So if Jesus is physically returning to earth, where's he coming back to?
Yeah.
Does the divine principle give any clues about the location?
It does. The divine principle points to a nation in the east
Okay.
specifically Korea as the birthplace of the Second Coming.
Korea. That's unexpected.
It is.
Why Korea?
The text suggests that that Korea is uniquely positioned geographically and historically to play this pivotal role.
Okay.
It's seen as a kind of spiritual crossroads.
Okay.
Where various civilizations and religious traditions converge.
So it's not random.
No.
It's a place with deep spiritual significance.
Exactly. And Korea's history, which is marked by these periods of suffering and resilience, is also seen as a kind of microcosm of humanity's struggle towards restoration.
So we have Jesus physically returning to Korea, bringing this new truth to help unify humanity. But if this is all part of God's plan, do our individual choices even matter?
That's where it gets even more interesting.
Okay.
While the divine principle suggests the overall purpose is predestined,
yeah,
it also emphasizes that our individual choices have a profound impact on how that purpose is fulfilled.
So even though there's this, like, grand plan, we're not just passive bystanders.
Not at all.
We have a responsibility to participate.
Absolutely.
And shape how things unfold.
Exactly. The divine principle suggests that God is inviting us to co-create this ideal world with him.
Wow.
Our choices matter. Our actions have consequences. And ultimately, we contribute to either accelerating or hindering the progress of restoration.
So we're not just waiting for the world to change.
Yeah.
We're actively involved in bringing about that change.
That's a powerful idea.
It is powerful.
Isn't it?
But what are we working towards?
Yeah, what's the end goal?
What is this ideal world, this kingdom of heaven on earth?
Right.
What does it actually look like?
Well, the divine principle offers some fascinating glimpses into what this ideal world might be.
Okay.
And it's not some, ethereal paradise floating in the clouds.
Thank goodness.
It's about transforming our world.
Okay, I like that a lot better.
Here and now.
So what kind of transformation?
Imagine like a global society where everything's in harmony.
Okay.
Functioning together seamlessly like a perfectly healthy human body.
Okay.
Each part working in concert with the others.
Okay, break that down for me.
Guided by a common purpose.
What does that look like practically?
Think about how the organs in your body work together.
Okay.
Your heart pumps blood.
Right.
Your lungs provide oxygen. Your brain coordinates everything. In the ideal world, all institutions, all systems will operate with this kind of interconnectedness and harmony.
So no more political gridlock.
Ideally.
No more economic inequality.
Right.
Religious wars.
Yeah, the divine principle envisions a world where everything is guided by God's desires.
Okay.
Just as your brain sends signals to every part of your body to keep things running smoothly.
So we're all connected to this divine source.
Yeah.
And working in unison towards this common goal.
That's the essence of it.
And this goes beyond just like human institutions.
Right. Remember the tree of life.
Yeah.
In the ideal world,
humanity
will have restored its rightful dominion over creation.
Yeah.
Will live in harmony with nature, respecting its rhythms and harnessing its resources responsibly for the good of all.
So it's not just about like fixing our systems, but also healing our relationship with nature.
Absolutely. Yeah. True dominion, according to the divine principle, isn't about exploitation or control, but about stewardship and loving care for the earth.
This is starting to sound like a utopia.
It's a big vision.
World peace, environmental harmony.
Yeah.
Everyone living in accordance with God's will.
It's the ideal.
It's hard to imagine how we get from here to there.
It is a radical transformation.
Yeah.
The divine principle acknowledges that it won't be easy.
So how do we approach such a massive...
It requires a fundamental change.
Undertaking.
In our thinking, our values, our whole way of life.
Where do we even start?
Well, remember that concept of indemnity.
Yeah.
It's not just about making up for past mistakes,
right,
but about laying the foundation for a better future.
Okay.
Every act of kindness, every effort toward unity, every step we take to align ourselves with God's will, these are all contributions.
So we're building this ideal world.
Yeah.
Like brick by brick.
That's a great way to think about it.
One good deed at a time.
And the divine principle suggests that as more individuals embrace this path of indemnity, the closer we'll get to realizing that ideal world.
But let's be realistic. We're talking about like transforming the entire planet,
I know, it's ambitious.
changing deeply ingrained systems
Yeah.
of beliefs. Is that even possible?
It's a daunting task, but the divine principle reminds us that God's love for humanity is boundless.
Yeah.
And his plan for restoration is unstoppable. You know, it might take generations, it might even take centuries to fully realize this vision.
Right.
But the seeds of that ideal world are being planted right now.
Okay.
Through every act of love, every choice for good.
So even small acts can have a ripple effect.
Yeah, across time,
Right.
contributing to this larger purpose.
That's a message of hope.
It is.
I like that.
It's something we can all hold on to.
What an incredible journey.
I know, it's a lot.
From the creation of the universe to the complexities of the divine principle.
Right.
To this breathtaking vision of an ideal world.
It's a big story.
I feel like my perspective has been completely expanded.
It's a lot to take in.
It is. The divine principle offers so much to think about.
It really does.
It challenges us to think critically.
Yeah.
To question our assumptions.
To go deeper.
And ultimately to recognize our role in something much greater than ourselves.
Absolutely.
And what does it all mean for you, our listener?
Yeah, that's the question.
If the divine principle proposes that history is moving towards a unified world centered on God.
Yeah, think about that.
Where do you see signs of this convergence in the world today? What role will you play in bringing about this ideal?
Take some time to reflect on these questions.
Diving deep.